From the unbelievable moment a military jet breaks the sound barrier during an intense low pass, and a dangerous crosswind in Germany that left several planes struggling to land, to a passenger flight from Houston that began with a fire in the starboard engine, and a 60-year-old pilot in Spain who crash-landed in a field after his landing gear malfunctioned. Here are 10 incredible aviation moments caught on camera. The Madrid Cuatro Vientos Airport is the oldest airport in Spain. It opened in 1911 and still services flights today. But due to its short runway and surrounding buildings, the only aircraft that can use it are small planes and helicopters. You're not landing a 747 here. Thankfully, the runway was clear on October 24th of 2014 when a father and son needed to make an emergency landing. While coming in, the 60-year-old pilot realized the landing gear had malfunctioned on his Piper PA-46. He had to line it up just right to avoid a catastrophe. Our skilled pilot was able to land the plane without any injuries. Unfortunately, his propeller took a serious beating when it hit the ground. Kudos to our father and son duo for remaining calm throughout the experience. It must have been harrowing, passing over all those buildings, knowing you're in for a rocky landing. You can tell how hard they hit the ground by the sudden jolt of the camera. But, as they say, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. Imagine you're preparing for takeoff. You're sitting in your favorite seat, the window over the starboard wing, and you're eager to film what should be a routine flight. Then, your worst nightmare becomes a reality. That's what happened to this traveler heading to Cancun from Houston, Texas. A Southwest Airlines flight took to the skies, only to make an emergency landing a few minutes later. You're about to see why. According to reports, a mechanical issue caused the fire in the engine. The plane turned around and landed safely back at William P. Hobby Airport, about 7 miles outside downtown Houston. Passengers said they could feel an air pocket as they ascended, followed by a sudden boom. That's when the fuselage started smelling like fuel, and panic began creeping in. Once they landed, the next question on everyone's mind was, how are we getting to Cancun? Don't worry, there was another plane on standby that was able to take over the flight. In mid-January of 2018, a brutal windstorm swept across parts of northern Europe. Winds topped 90 miles per hour, which was fast enough to knock over trucks and tear the roofs off buildings. As you can imagine, it made landing airplanes at an airport in Dusseldorf, Germany, rather challenging. Thankfully, the pilots flying that day were skilled in the art of crab landings. Our first pilot got off to a rocky start, but still executed an effective crab. Notice how they fight the wind all the way to the ground. Then, just as the back wheels hit, the pilot uses the wind to straighten the plane. Knowing how to execute a crab landing is only half the battle. Knowing when to abort and try again is equally important. You can't appreciate the crab landing until you see it head on. In this clip, watch how the pilot is at a near 45-degree angle moments before they touch down. It's wild to see how much the wind can impact a plane as it's landing. It makes you appreciate the rigorous training commercial pilots go through before they ever take off. For the longest time, the only thing that could break the sound barrier was lightning. Then, we invented the bullwhip, the bullet, and soon, the fighter jet. The first human to break the sound barrier was U.S. Air Force Captain Charles E. Yeager. He did it in his Bell X-1 on October 14th of 1947. Since then, military planes have only gotten faster. Take this F-18 flying over an aircraft carrier at sea. To break the sound barrier, an object must travel at Mach 1, or about 767 miles per hour. Theoretically, an object could free fall from space and break the sound barrier on its way down. Humans could too, with the right protective gear. On September 1st of 2018, another group of spectators got to hear the sound barrier shatter. Only this time, they got to see what it actually looks like. Technically, you can't see a sonic boom. That cone around the jet is what's called a vapor cone. It's a visible cloud of condensed water that'll form around an object moving at Mach speeds. That's why it's sometimes called a Mach diamond. Tensions between the United States and Russia have been high since the Cold War. It's scary to think that the slightest misunderstanding could easily ignite World War III. We actually came pretty close on March 14th of 2023. A US-owned MQ-9 Reaper was flying over international waters in the Black Sea when two Russian Su-27s approached. The Reaper is a remote-operated drone meant for intelligence gathering. Thankfully, there were no American pilots in danger when these planes decided to intercept. A camera mounted under the US drone shows the first Russian plane approaching from the rear. It releases a plume of fuel as it pulls over the jet, which slightly damages the camera. Then, a second plane approaches, this time much closer. It also releases a fuel plume that takes out the camera for a longer period. When it recovers, you can see the rear propeller is slightly damaged. According to the Pentagon, the drone crashed into the Black Sea near the southern coast of Ukraine. The US called the encounter an unsafe and unprofessional intercept. Meanwhile, Russia says the jets didn't attack or come in contact with the drone. It simply lost control and crashed into the water. If you like soaring through the air with only a thin piece of fabric keeping you from plummeting to the ground, hang gliding and paragliding might be the sports for you. They may seem similar, but they're unique in their own ways. The biggest difference is in the equipment. Paragliders look like a parachute/glider hybrid. Hang gliders use a rigid frame with a wing made of fabric and aluminum. That makes them heavier and slightly harder to control. These Ukrainian gliders learned that lesson the hard way. With all that open space, it's hard to imagine how you could crash into somebody else. You can tell the hang glider was trying to pull up, but it's hard to control yourself when you're just falling with style. The scary part is when our paraglider's chute winds up underneath him. One gust of wind could work more like a whip, slamming him into the ground. While it wasn't the softest of landings, it could have been much worse. Thankfully, it looks like our paraglider was okay. He climbed to his feet and began yelling out to someone. We imagine he was using some colorful language if it was the hang glider he was yelling at. According to Boeing, their new 777X plane will be the world's largest and most efficient twin-engine jet. It's powered by two General Electric GE9Xs, thought to be the most powerful engines in the world. On July 19th of 2022, the 777X appeared at the Farnborough Air Show in Hampshire, England. It's a trade exhibition for the defense and aerospace industries. Customers and investors from around the world come to see the latest advancements in commercial and military tech. When they saw the Boeing 777X perform a near vertical takeoff, they knew it was the plane of the future. Normally, you see nimble military jets performing these kinds of stunts, not commercial planes. The 777X climbed to 1,300 feet in a matter of seconds. According to reports, it was technically climbing at 6,000 feet per minute. That means it could reach cruising altitude in 5 minutes. Expect to be flying in a Boeing 777X sometime in early 2025. They planned to release earlier, but delays have pushed the date back. Narita International Airport is one of two major airports serving the greater Tokyo area. In 2022, it moved over 15 million passengers and 2.3 million metric tons of cargo. But things weren't running as smoothly on June 27th of 2012. Flight NH956 from Beijing to Tokyo was coming in for a landing. Then, out of nowhere, the wind picked up, blowing as fast as 29 knots. While the landing looks rough, wait until you see what it did to the plane. There were 183 passengers and 10 crew members aboard this Boeing 767. Only a handful suffered minor sprains and bumps when the plane landed. The real damage was to the fuselage. You can see where the impact bent parts of the body and dented the plane's underside. Imagine the kind of force it takes to cause that kind of damage. Those don't look like the kind of dents you can just buff out. Schiphol Airport is the primary international airport in the Netherlands. It sits 5.6 miles southwest of Amsterdam and was the world's third busiest international airport in 2021. But people aren't the only things flying into Amsterdam. there are plenty of cargo planes going in and out as well. Aviation enthusiast Jerry Dyer was there on March 13th of 2022 to film a Qatari Boeing 747 landing in a nasty crosswind. You don't realize how scary these landings can be until you witness one firsthand.
100. Okay, let's get a tight shot of the touch now, shall we? Because he's going to grease it. Oh, look. He's got a big smile on his face, look. Her face. Whoa! Whoa! No! Flipping easy there, son.
Luckily, the pilot was able to recover after bouncing off the tarmac. According to Jerry, when pilots try to land in a crosswind, they should land her in the crab and swing the tail on touchdown. But what does that actually mean? Well, crabbing turns the plane into the crosswind to keep it centered on the runway. They call it crabbing because it looks like the plane is landing sideways. The pilot course corrects at the last second, straightening the plane and landing safely. If they don't crab, the wind can push the plane off-center, leading to a horrible accident. It's not always pretty, but it is the safest way to land in a crosswind. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.